Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Healing Conversations. My name is Ainab Avni. I am an energy healer and empowerment coach, and I mainly work with people suffering from chronic pain, chronic illnesses to heal or reduce their symptoms. This podcast is all about hope, it's all about alternatives, it's all about bringing you a message or something that you haven't heard before. Or maybe if you have, I'm sure there is something here for you to listen to as well. So let's get started with me today, Dr. Michelle Greenwell. Hello, Michelle. So lovely to have you here.
Hello. Thank you for having me. It's beautiful to be here with everyone.
Wonderful. So let's get started and really tell us something about you.
So, my past has been in dance, and I've been an educator in dance for over 40 years. And I became very passionate about Tai Chi about 30 years ago. So I spent a lot of time in movement and movement to heal the body. And then with COVID and coming out of COVID, I've had to really reinvent myself. And I've reinvented in two ways. One is helping people who sit too much. So it went from lots of movement to what happens when you're confined and you're in front of your computer. So I spent a lot of time supporting people with how their posture affects how they think, how they make decisions, how they feel. And I also moved over to spending more time with my tea company. And what makes me really excited and happy is mixing blends and playing. Actually, I just realized today I was at a meeting and represented myself as a tea artist and realized I play with color. And I play with color in movement, but I also play with color with tea. And I hadn't really thought about that before. But I think that's what makes me smile so much, is because it's so much fun to play with. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and both of these are quite remarkable. I mean, yes, movement, especially for people who see too much. People always tell me that I see too much, and I'm like, I know, but I do recognize what you're saying about the way that you see it affects how you are thinking and all of the postures and the grounding and all of that. But maybe we can start there and tell me or tell us really how does that work? When do you come in, or how do you come in, and what does that conversation look like?
Yeah, yeah. So one is looking at some of the habits that we have that we just assumed, right? Because as we all move to being at our computer more and working from home, we just assume that we sit on a chair in front of a computer. Some people stand, and some people try to do a repetitive movement, a bystanding, or maybe they're pedaling something, and that works. But there's a couple really key pieces that I like to bring forward. And when I'm doing my workshops in it, there's a lot more components to it. And I can really expand into goal setting and intentions and really moving yourself forward while seated. But from a perspective of body movement, we can't process things unless our diaphragm moves. And a lot of people think they have to be able to process from their brain, which is true. But our diaphragm is in the center of our body. And when it gets stuck, the fluids and the top half of the body cannot move into the core, and the fluids on the bottom half can't move into the core. And so then we don't get a flushing of the system. And when we're seated, you also have then that bend in the hip, and for a lot of us, bend in the knee. And so we've completely cut off how all the fluids and systems are functioning on the lower half of our body. And then if our diaphragm isn't moving, then that slowed down everything on the top. So if you imagine all systems coming to a halt, if you're even thinking about, I had to drive through construction to get home today. And so if all of that brings a stop, nothing's going to happen. And how can you think positively? How can you have creative thoughts? And then how can you make decisions that aren't based on your body trying to just survive? Because it's trying to figure out how it's going to have enough air. And you're saying, I need to make this really big decision about something. And it's back at, I need some air. So it's going to not be thinking in a way that's going to allow you to make choices that are for the highest good of a company or a project you're working on. It's going to be wanting you to make choices on how best can it function. And I don't think people really realize that capacity of it, because we're always trying to think that our consciousness is controlling everything. And if we think it, then it's possible. But sometimes it's much more than that. So that's one example. And I call it dynamic sitting because instead of sitting at your computer, you actually engage through the feet. You can engage through the pelvic floor. And anything that you move there moves your shoulders and your jaw and your eyes, and it motivates everything. And when we do that while we're seated, you can imagine how much less stress comes from staring at a beautiful screen, which really can shut down the eyes, but also just how it can start to bring a little bit of vibration and energy to kind of float up. And for those of us that love to support people with their energy work and getting that electrical system fired up and working correctly, that can be really valuable for how the whole body changes.
Mm-hmm. It is very interesting to think about it in this way. I think because, like you say, we don't really pay attention to that. We don't pay attention to how we sit, but we definitely don't bring it into awareness that maybe the way that we sit impacts decisions that we're making, or how we're reacting, or how we're responding to things.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you're sitting in front of your computer, my husband has two screens, and sometimes he has a TV show going on one side, just because he likes the distraction of the sounds while he's doing his creative work. But he also ends up with flashes of news that come on. And so when you're trying to navigate and filter all those pieces, but you're filtering with a body that hasn't moved in, let's say, a couple of hours, because most of us, once we dive into our work, we actually don't really move for quite a while. And we just want to finish something before we get up to do something else. And so a couple of hours have gone by. You can imagine the situation that the systems are in after those couple of hours go by. And I know that people say after 20 minutes, look away for 20 seconds, look 20 feet away. And that's just to engage the eyes, but you haven't changed how you're breathing. You haven't changed how the body's functioning. And you haven't connected back in with your feet. And the feet are going to help you with centering, grounding, balance, stability, how you approach gravity. And you don't think that makes too much of a difference. But if the gravity reflex isn't working, your whole spine can start to just compact. And now you want to turn, but everything's compacted. You're not going to have the inspiration going all the places you want to go. Yeah.
So in what way are you, how are you interacting with people? I mean, of course, it's, you mentioned your movement classes, and I guess that's one way, but how do people find you? I mean, not exactly where do they find you, but how do they even know to look for someone to help them with their posture and sitting and movement?
And that's a good question, because most people are looking for a massage. They're looking for a pedicure. They're looking for some kind of spa kind of experience, or they want products like soap or bath bombs or things like that can give them a moment of relaxation. And people aren't thinking about posture. They're assuming their posture is okay, or they'll say, oh yes, I have the computer neck. But then in another sentence a little bit later, they'll say, oh, my neck really drives me crazy. It's been bothering me for weeks. But they don't ever actually lock into really realizing the impact of the body. So how do I find those people? That is a really good question. Because the people that find me in my community are mostly seniors, because they know the impact of having a body that's no longer functioning as they want it to be, with less strength, and they're vested in being as mobile as possible. But those people who, particularly 20 and 30-year-olds, who have bodies that can just do whatever they want them to do, and they're not really thinking about, oh, when I'm 40 or when I'm 50, how will I be moving as a result of what I'm doing today? They're not thinking about that. So I've really been working at trying to educate people that the most basic functions, you have to really pay attention. Even how to go up and down the stairs. In Tai Chi, we have a exercise that supports how you get strength going up and down the stairs. And most people, when they're able-bodied, will run up the stairs, but they'll also, I call it falling down the stairs, because they'll run back down the stairs, which means they'll be impacting all the way down. And the seniors can't do that. So they want to know exactly how can they have that same strength to be able to continue to move that way. So one is I do find the seniors, but the other is when people start working with me and starting to understand their daily activities and how they approach them, then they just can't believe how they can transform. Their business transforms, the way they think transforms, relationships, and how much time they have to explore either their work in the day, but their work-life balance. So a lot of people, if they spend time sitting, say, in front of their desk, or they could be driving in a car too, where they drive for long periods of time. They get to the end of the day and they're tired. They just want to hit the couch. But after people have worked with me and they energize all day and they actually start storing energy and building it, then when they finish their day, the work day part, they have the whole rest of the day to be who they are. And so that transformation really becomes very clear. So those people that want to spend the time having that kind of life are the people that typically will then find me.
Amazing. And would you say, because I just want to also touch on the main topic that I'm really interested in, which is the chronic pain and chronic illness and how we can bring alternative to healing or reducing people's pain. How do we tie these two together, the way that people see it and how they're feeling?
Yeah. And how many people assume that their chronic pain is permanent?
Yeah.
Right? They've had it for a long period of time. They're going to assume they're going to have it for longer.
Yeah.
But what if it isn't true? And what if that chronic pain is because they're just holding one pattern? Like if you're sitting in front of your desk and you hold your head forward, leaning into your computer all day, what if that one pattern is affecting the hip, is affecting the knee, is affecting your mood, but you keep going to the same pattern all the time? That creates the chronic part. It is the chronic habit. So, and I'm not belittling the people who have some really severe pain issues, because that does exist. But what if we started to take the layers off of some things that might be contributing to that? How might the chronic pain lift? And how might it even disappear? And can you imagine if it disappeared and your assumption that it was what you were going to have for the rest of your life wasn't actually true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I already love that. Like, really.
I've come from that chronic pain. I came from not being able to walk. I could not get across the floor. I'm teaching dance in a studio. My studio is 1,200 square feet. To get across one studio, I couldn't walk across it. I couldn't speak loud enough that the kids could hear me. I came from that place. I also came from being very depressed and wondering, there has to be more to life than where I am today. And so I have come from that place. And I'm not saying it was an easy road to walk, but the road out of that has been so enriching and so empowering. And when I look at how I can use my tools every day to counteract the chronic things that happen, it's possible. And it can be so different.
So tell us, is there something that people can do by themselves already as a quick win for just to pay attention to how they're sitting, or something that they can do differently? Right.
The one that's best to do, because we're online, we can see, from the shoulders up, basically. The best one is to work with the neck. I can do that one because it's nice and easy. I really strongly recommend working with the feet, because so much can happen through the whole body from the feet, but it's a little bit more difficult to do that. So what I would invite people who are listening is to turn their head and notice what it feels like to turn. So if you just go to one side, we're going to have to do this for a couple of days. Okay. So you can probably notice you get to a place where you can't turn because something crinks or cracks or holds, or you can start to feel muscles.
Mm-hmm.
And you may have a small range of motion, you might have a bigger range of motion, but knowing that you should be able to turn your head to at least get to your shoulder. If you're less than that, then you already know you've got limited mobility. So just to know what that feels like, but also then if the right and the left sides felt the same. For most people, it's slightly different. And usually
Mm-hmm.
there's one side that has less mobility and maybe that a pain that shoots up into it, whereas the other side might not have that. Okay, so now what I invite you to do is also notice if your ears are over top of your shoulders. So, of course, we're sitting face on, so you can't quite see that. And I probably have my ears at the moment because I'm sitting on a stool. I probably have them slightly forward, but proper posture would be to have them in line straight up. Now, to get there, you could pull on your ears
Right.
and just feel how you find straight. So from that place, so see now, working on a computer, I feel like I'm leaning way back from the computer and I want to talk to you, which
Yeah.
has me move forward. And I know that about being on the computer, especially when I get to talk to people on programs. So this helps me realize how out of alignment I actually am. So that'd be the first piece, right? And then you think, okay, everybody's thought pattern is going to go consciously, then I need to make myself sit here. But that requires you to distract yourself from whatever it is you're working on, to continually remind yourself to be there. What we want to do is just put ourselves there and not think about it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the bulk of my program is how do you do these things and they become part of the background so you can actually focus on what you want to focus on. So I'm going to invite people to rub their ear. You could do same hand as ear, or you can do opposite. So whichever
Mm-hmm.
works. I'll do same just so it's easier to see. You're just going to rub the ear like you're unrolling it from the top to the bottom. Okay, so if people just want to do that, and go second time, go a little bit closer into the ear, and the third time you get right in towards the center of the ear. Just give a little tug. All right.
And what did we do with that other than bring some more energy and maybe
Well, you're going to feel it heat up, so
right?
you increase the circulation.
Mm-hmm.
Every point related on the body comes through the ear, so it's related somewhere. So we're inspiring everywhere at the same time. This can help put you on the beat of music. If you're a musician or a dancer or doing some kind of movement-based piece. This can also help you hear if there's distractions in the background. It can help you focus on hearing easier. This can help you with balance. This helps calm the vagus nerve. It's a
Everything.
great little fix. Okay, so we go to the other side. So we want to make sure we have the opportunity to optimize. So we've got the 3 rubs again. This is also great to put the body clock on the right time. So for people who travel, who go across time zones, what you do is when you're rubbing the ear, you just think about what time it is in the place that you are. And then as you go across time zones, you can change that. Or some people who can't sleep well, often their body clock is off. It thinks it's a different time. And so it might try to wake you up when you want to go to sleep. So it's a great way to reset the clock. Okay, but from a structural perspective at the moment, now turn your head and see how it feels. So Ina, did that change for you?
I think I was just more aware. Yes, a little bit on my left hand side there is a little bit of tension, but I wasn't aware of it before, but I was more aware of it now.
Okay. And so did you get to the same distance as you did before, or did you get a little bit more?
I I think it was about the same, but I like I say, at the beginning I thought, hey, it was the same, and I remember doing a similar exercise before, thinking, yes, I had one side that was definitely suffering more. Um, so so now I think it brought me more yeah, more awareness into yes what I was doing, and actually also I think my posture has changed a little bit in your guidance. So
Right, right, okay. And the other thing that what I want you to notice this time is when you go to turn, notice how your hips and your spine react when you go to turn your head. So you turn, and you're going to notice that the whole rest of the spine wants to turn with you.
yeah,
When I asked you the first time to do that, it was an isolated movement. But after we've rubbed, it becomes a whole body movement.
yeah,
So we actually integrated the systems. So now when you turn, you have all the tissue helping you to make the turn.
yeah,
And whole body movement means you have more power, you have the strength you want, but also you have the flexibility in the right places. And a lot of times people think about if they're going to exercise, they're going to stretch. They're going to stretch the major groups in one direction, but the body functions in a whole body perspective. So everything's in harmony with everything. One has to let go for the other to contract, but it has to be in this beautiful harmony. And so what we did is we just inspired that.
yeah. And I could definitely feel my spine taking part now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Interesting, isn't it?
it
And then
is.
you've now inspired to be on the clock. You've inspired all the systems. And if we had gone to awareness about the breath, my guess is the breath would have changed a little bit as well. So it might have been you took a yawn, took a deeper breath, maybe slowed your breath down. There'd be a couple different things. And that's just one piece. That's one tiny little piece of what can happen in a program. Yeah. Um,
Amazing.
yeah.
So tell me, thank you first of all for this little exercise. It does feel like there's new energy in me, at least. I wanted to move on to talk a little bit more about the teas, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me, where did that start? How
Yeah.
did that start?
I had a business partner in 2015, and we wanted to work. I was fascinated by tea. My daughter actually was inspired me towards that, and we formed a company to create teas based on the 5 elements from Chinese medicine. So taking Western herbs instead of Eastern herbs, and using things that we can find. I'm in North America, so finding in the garden, finding in the forest, those kinds of ingredients. And so we created 11 blends and put together a full package of how you can use teas to inspire the body to find balance and flow. And in the last half year, we've rebranded the company to the Cape Breton Tea Company, which is where I live. I live on an island in Nova Scotia, in Canada. And we went to building blends that are about where I live, but also about things that are around me. And in March of this year, I took over the company full time myself. And so I've been adding on to those blends. But what I've discovered um, is one, I'm not a tea sommelier because I didn't take the course for that. I do understand how the black teas, the green teas work, the components of them, etc. But I am known as a tea artist. And so I'm thinking about how different herbs complement each other, and not a lot of people will take herbs and they'll go chamomile's good for. So I'm going to take it because. And do you have a tea that's made with turmeric? Because I know that it's good for inflammation. But what I actually do is take the herbs and I go, what is the essence of the herb? The dandelion helps you with circumstances, helps you with identifying where in your life you need to bring more focus so that you're living more the way you want to be. Now, that's a lot different approach to dandelion than Dandelion tea is good for the liver, right? And so when you start to bring the essences of the herbs together and put them into packages, then you have this way of manifesting with your tea. And we were doing that with the 5 element teas, but I have Take the Shore Road. Now, Take the Shore Road, when you're looking at the ocean and the sun comes shining down onto the ocean, you get this turquoise, bluish, green, gorgeous color. That's what the tea creates. And in it, it has ingredients that support manifesting and lifting you up. But at the same time, you have this gorgeous color. And color and light and sound are the fastest ways for us to do healing. We can do a lot of different healing approaches. We have a lot of impactful tools, but those two are really the fastest. And so for someone working themselves, it's delightful to be able to blend a tea, put it in a clear tea cup, glass, and then look at that gorgeous color and then sip away. And then when you're thinking about Take the Shore Road, you're thinking about, oh, yeah, instead of taking the freeway so I can get from point A to point B, what happens if I take a little bit off the beaten path, or I take myself a little bit slower? I make a stop on my way, or I make 2 stops, or I see a friend. What happens to my life then? What happens to business for me then? And what creative process happens because I stop to interact with someone instead of just getting from point A to point B? And our innate healing potential engages as soon as we interact with someone else for our highest good. And if we have a really incredible conversation with someone, you get back in the car and you get on the bus or the train, and you're thinking about the conversation, and then you start to think about, where does that change my thought process and what I'm working on, or how I'm thinking, or what I want to do. And so being a tea artist is really a fun way of thinking about it. How can I inspire people to change the way they think about living, and that change the way about the little things they do for themselves? Bath bombs are great, crawl into the tub, but wouldn't it be awesome if you crawled into the tub with a cup of tea and you had that beautiful color, and you've got your candle, and then you've got your bath bomb, or you crawl in and you put the tea into a satchel and you put it into the tub and you soak in that. You're soaking in the herbs and the essence of the herbs. So there's a lot of fun ways to engage.
But I think what I really like about everything that you say, other than totally feel the engagement with all the senses, it's also about slowing down. It really is that thing of, we are so quick to really get from point A to point B, and often we really do miss the journey, and we then tell ourselves, oh, I don't have time, I have to get to point B. And I guess really what I like about what you're saying is that when you do slow down, you do have a chance to really get connected, or to connect with the things that are really important to you, to your journey, to to your inspiration, and of course to your energy.
Mm-hmm.
So just by listening to you describing the tea, and how you might have it, use it or interact with it, or it already feels like it's slowing me down. And so it really excites me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that happens in Tai Chi, which I'm very passionate about, and I spend quite a bit of my week involved with Tai Chi, they talk about the monkey mind. And I can't sit and meditate. I go crazy. I need to move, especially if I've been in front of my computer all day. Last thing I want to do is go sit and meditate. I want to move my body, but I can move my body and meditate. And when I do that, that calms my system down. So for someone who goes, who's like a high-paced, go, walks fast kind of person, if you think about sitting to meditate, and that's a distractor from you actually doing something in your self-care, then perhaps don't think about stopping. Think about how to engage in something that allows that monkey mind to calm on its own. Because once it's calmed, then you'll go to pick the activity that's going to be calm, rather than making yourself go there. And I've learned that from Tai Chi, because I can I spent yesterday in a garden with sculptures, and we did Tai Chi with all the sculptures, and the artist shared with us his vision of each of the sculptures. And the Tai Chi just allowed us to just be completely present. And after the first exercise that we did in front of the first sculpture, everybody's voice, the volume just came straight down, and we were all completely chilled out. It was so beautiful. But that wouldn't have happened. I would have dove into the space and, oh, I want to be so involved here. And then that allowed me to stop and go, okay, where am I? How am I? How am I being right at this moment? Yeah.
I love that. I really do love that. So tell me a little bit. I know that we spoke before, and you have a tea offer and a movement offer. Tell us a little bit about what these are all about.
Yeah. So my tea company is called the Cape Breton Tea Company. So capebretontea.ca. And what I would invite people to do is check it out. Yes, the tea blends are all listed there, but what you're going to find is I'm continually changing them, and based on the season, things are coming around. But I also have a story section and a link section. So there may be resources there or ideas that you haven't thought about. So to really just become present with tea. And if what I've said to you resonates about the essences of the herbs, then you know that that's what I'm going to be finding in them. And that's going to be a way for you to learn about the herbs in a completely different way. And that might be of importance to someone. And I do offer workshops in that. But then on the other side, I have my movement-based approach. And I still operate under dancedebut.com. And that business it's over 35 years. So that's why I continue to operate there. And people will say, but it says dance at the beginning. But really everything we do in life is a dance. And the movements that we do are all dance related. And Tai Chi, when we do it, looks like ballet. It's just nice and smooth and flowing. And so if you think in those terms, when you come to my dance website, then you're going to find activities that are movement based. So I have Movement Made Easy, which has an intuitive musician that plays while I do all the movement actions. That can be a really calming thing to do in the middle of the day. And you've got a recording that you can use later in the week. I have Chi Integration, which is all about understanding the biofield, so the energy outside the body as well as the energy on the inside. And then I have my Tai Chi, and there are lots of programs there, resources, and presentations that I'm doing that I keep everybody up to date on. So there's definitely lots of resources in there. And my YouTube channel, which is at Michelle Greenwell, has many playlists. So people can look for my podcast, they can look for things about tea, they can find Tai Chi, and they can find dance, whatever they're interested in. And that gives everybody a chance to think about how do they want to play in their day. And maybe it's with tea, maybe it's with movement, but all of it for well-being.
Nice. And of course, I'm going to put all of your social links wherever people are watching or listening to us from. They can find all the information. So it's all going to be there.
Yes, thank you.
Michelle, thank you so much for coming here today and telling us a little bit more about you and what you do and the wisdom that you bring to the world. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I think I had a glimpse of this being in the moment and this, activating all of my system, which is away from my, getting from A to B kind of thing. So thank you for that. I really, really enjoyed having a taster of that. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
You're welcome. Can I share the card that I pulled for today?
Absolutely.
Is that okay? So I have a deck called the Affirmations for the Body and Biofield deck, and it has artwork on it, but it has affirmations, and it's been infused with energy and intentions. And so this was the card I pulled for us today. So anybody listening, you are now a part of this energy package, and it's for meeting the divine. Feel the connection of your inner being rooted to the inner being of Mother Earth. Embrace her resonance. Celebrate all Mother Earth offers and all your body gives to you. It has to do with the 10th chakra, which is the Earth Star, how you do connect to the ground. And so for those people listening, I hope that we've grounded you and that you're able to think about some new ways of bringing your wellness forward. And thank you, Ina, for having me to speak about it. It's lovely to share.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for the card. I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.